class. Today we're looking at Chapter 2-6, Solving Equations with the Distributive Property. So what is the distributive property? It's when you multiply a factor by a sum or difference, the product is the same as multiplying the factor by each term and then adding or subtracting the products. So let me show you, let's write that down and then I'll show you an example. So for example, if you have 4 times 5 plus 9, we could do 5 plus 9 equals 14 times 4, and that's going to equal 56. Or we could do 4 times 5 is 20. 4 times 9 is 36. 20 plus 36 equals 56. So the distributive property is just saying that you can do it either way. You can distribute it in, and it's equal to the same thing as if you add them together and then multiply by the term. So let's look at an example here. So using the distributive property. So we have this rectangle and this side is 8.2 feet. This one we don't know. The perimeter around the whole thing equals 42 feet. And it wants us to find how much, what the length of a fence would have to be to use all 42 feet. So if these are 8.2, how much can the others be? So let's put an equation together. So the equation that I have here is going to be 2 times x, because we don't know what that is, plus 8.2. So right, 8.2 feet plus x, and then times 2, because there's that side plus these sides, is going to equal 42. So now we can use the distributive property. So we want to take it and we're multiplying the 2 in to both terms. So then we're going to have 2 times x plus 2 times 8.2 equals 42. So now we want to simplify. So if we multiply 2x, that's all we get is 2x, but we can drop those parentheses, plus 2 times 8.2 is going to be 16.4 equals 42. So now we want to subtract the 16.4 from both sides. And if we do that, right, we subtract 16.4 from this side, that gets crossed out. Subtract 16.4 from this side, that's going to leave us with 2x equals 25.6. So then we divide both sides by 2. That crosses out. And we are left with x equals 12.8. So that's the size of x. Okay? Because if we want to double check ourselves, we could go 12.8 plus 12.8 plus 8.2 plus 8.2. 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. 8 plus 2 is 10. 8 plus 2 is 10, 22. And 4. 42. And that is what we said the perimeter was. You could also take the 12.8 and put it into our original equation. Okay, so try this one on your own after going through what we just did. What is the width of a rectangle with a length of 17 centimeters and a perimeter of 58? So I'll help you set up the equation. So it's going to be 2 times x plus 17 equals 58. Go ahead and try to solve that on your own. Okay, so if you got 12 centimeters, you are correct. Go ahead and try the next two. Well, now we're going to look, sorry, let me do this one. No, it's the same thing. Go ahead and try number 2 on your own too. So this one you should have got A equals 3.5. This next one, same thing, but I just want to make a note before you complete it. Make sure you look that this one has a -3. So it's -3 times B, -3 times 15. Okay, go ahead and try that out. Come back and check your work. Okay, so for that one, you should have got B equals -13.5. Okay, let's go ahead and work this one out together. Okay, so when we have a fraction in here, we're going to do the same thing. So 8.5 times C, and then 8.5 times 16 equals 340. Okay, so this is just going to be 8.5 C, but then this one gets a little bit more complicated. So what we could do is we could do -8 times 16 and then 1/2 plus 1/2 times 16. Because 8 plus 1/2 is 8.5. Okay, so if we had 8 times 16, we're going to get 128. And then 1/2. 1/2 is actually like saying 0.5. But if you think of what half of 16 is, it's going to be 8. So we add those two together, and that equals 136. So now we can put this on down, and there, that is a subtraction sign. So we have 8.5 C, subtract 136 equals 340. So to get rid of the 136, we're going to add 136 to both sides. It's going to equal 476. So 8.5 C equals 476. Going to divide by 8.5. And at this point, it would be easiest if you divided by 8.5, so changing the fraction into a decimal. And when you divide 476 divided by 8.5, you are going to get 56. So there is more than one way to work this. So right now, let's look at this again. If we had 8.5 C minus 6 equals 340. This is already pulled out. 8.5 is pulled out. So what if we didn't distribute it? And we just divide by 8.5, both sides. I did start doing the train tracks with you guys. If you are coming to class, you might see that I do that just to try to keep the sides separate, so that you know whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other. So if you divide this, because it's being multiplied together by 8.5, it crosses it out on this side. And then if we turned the half into a decimal, so 2 divided into 1 is going to equal 0.5. And you have 340 divided by 8.5, that equals 40. Oops, let's do a different color. And then on this side we have C minus 16. Add 16 to both sides. 56. C equals 56. So you can choose which way is going to be easier for you. This only works if it's being multiplied or divided. So otherwise, if there was an additional like plus something in this, so if it said plus 2, you would have to get rid of the plus 2 before you divided by 8.5. But that's an option. Either way is correct in doing it. Just making sure you are trying to do whatever you do to this side, you have to do to this side. Your homework for tonight is page 91, numbers 5 through 19 odd.